Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the SmackDown report for the 2nd of April 2021. Right on the heels of WrestleMania, and I can't be more disappointed in this product. Good news is we're going to be starting the WCW Saturday Night Series, and that is much, much better than what they're putting on SmackDown these days. Should have about 150, 200 episodes by the time we're done with that. I will be going back to the Smoky Mountain Series, but I wanted to challenge myself to look at things I hadn't seen before, or maybe during the first run over 25 years ago. Anyway, actually almost 30 years ago. Anyway, so we open with the Edge segment. Edge comes to the ring. He notes that everything that's happened thus far since Fastlane and surrounding it didn't need to happen. Edge basically calls Daniel Bryan a weasel and for getting in the main event. He was excited at Fastlane, but that wasn't enough for Bryan. Edge said he's worried about Roman Reigns. He didn't see Bryan manipulating the situation. Edge notes that he finally looked in the mirror and saw the rated R superstar. He makes fun of Adam Pearce for adding Daniel Bryan to the main event. Edge demands that they put the graphic of WrestleMania main event on the big screen. Edge admitted that he snapped at Fastlane because he's awake. Edge points out that he has the opportunity to hit Reigns and Bryan's with a concerto. He promised that next time he wouldn't miss. He jumps out of the ring and stares at the graphics on the screen. This was very good. However, the better story, the more heartwarming story, the story that matters and counts, especially when Edge doesn't know how long he can go, is Edge winning the championship from Reigns as a babyface, and then going as long as he can and dropping the belt to the next star. This Daniel Bryan put him back in, 7, 8 years after he should have been pushed, is ridiculous, and I don't like it. It doesn't, it's not valuable. Anyway, we come back. Michael Cole announces that the Daniel Bryan versus Jey Uso in a street fight tonight. Kayla Braxton approaches Edge. She says that he didn't mention the main event. She says most people assume Uso's role is to injure Bryan, take him out of Mania. And Edge says he doesn't care what happens to Bryan tonight. So then we go to Dolph Ziggler, Robert Roode, Chad Gable, and Otis defeating Street Profits and Rey and Dominic Mysterio. It's a fine 8-man tag match, but it doesn't mean anything in the long run for the program. It's just, let's throw things together. Gable and Otis promised to win the tag team titles next week. Gable noted that they're going to win the titles from their partners. They pointed at the ceiling and said they're going to do it for the Alpha Academy. The Mysterios do an insert interview. They hope to be the first father-son team to win the titles. Street Profits do an insert promo as well. They vow to regain the titles next week in the Fatal 4-Way. Faces have an early advantage. They go nuts on the heels, clear the ring, and then the heels are sent to the floor. Rey catches Ziggler with a senton off the apron. Dominic follows up with a dive of his own. Montez Ford is out next and hits a dive on the other side of the ring on Otis. Back from the break, and Dawkins gets the tag and hits a series of suplexes. Dawkins misses a splash in the corner, but he recovers. Heels take over. Otis rocks Dawkins with a clothesline, and the heels isolate Dawkins, cut him off in the corner. Otis and Dawkins collide in the middle of the ring. Ford gets the tag, hits a series of drop kicks, and Rey attempts 619 on Ziggler. Roode pulls him out to the floor. Rey fights back and sends Roode into the barricade. Dominic pulls Ziggler to the floor and then sends him to the other side of the ring. Ford then attempts a frog splash. Gable avoids it, hits a rolling German suplex on Ford, and Otis hits a splash for the second turnbuckle for the win. surprise win, but I don't really think anybody cares who the tag team champions are on SmackDown anyway. And honestly, Otis, I don't get it. I don't like they put all this steam behind him, have him win Money in the Bank, and now he's in a throwaway tag team that half the fans don't remember. Anyway, Pierce is about to speak. DeVille cuts him off, agrees with Heyman that Pierce seemed surprised. Rollins um, and as far as agreeing with Heyman, basically, Heyman approaches Adam Pierce and DeVille. Heyman wants to add a stipulation to the street fight. Uso can't be held responsible for what he does to Bryan. That's the whole reason for that. In a street fight, is there really that much consequence anyway? Goofy, extra time filling step. Rollins and Cesaro have a fine segment. They recap the giant swing deal. Corey Graves interviews Rollins and Cesaro in ring, points out that this is Cesaro's first single match at WrestleMania, which is just sad with how long he's been in the company. Cesaro notes that he has to win at WrestleMania 37, and he can't fail. He promised not to fail a bunch of times, almost to the overkill point, where he's made the match result somewhat anticlimactic. Rollins points out it's WrestleMania season, so he can't shake him. He listed all his WrestleMania accomplishments, along with other moments. Cesaro promised to defeat Rollins. Rollins laughs at him and claims he's unshakable. Rollins snaps and gets in Cesaro's face. Cesaro taunts Rollins, tells him to take a swing. Rollins is angry, backs off, leaves the ring. Carmella is warming up with Nia Jax. Baszler and Reginald walks by. Reginald whispers in Jax's ear. Jax tells Carmella that she didn't treat Reginald well. Carmella is confused. Champions walk away. And honestly, this romance storyline is utter trash. Anyhow, so then we go Natalya with Tamina defeats Shayna Baszler. Yes, I read that. With Nia Jax and Reginald. Jax joins Graves on commentary along with Michael Cole. They show Carmella watching on a screen in the back. Short, actually pointless match. No build. Baszler has an advantage for maybe less than a minute. Natalya fights back and uses inside cradle. Natalya counters the cradle, gets the win. Post-match, Jax and Baszler brawl with Natalya and Tamina. Riot Squad run out and join the brawl. They take Jax out. Mandy Rose and Dana Brooks run out. They cover the brawl as well. Lana and Naomi follow, and they're out there moments later. Eventually, Natalya and Tamina recover from the beatdown, and they end up going with Naomi and Lana to win the segment. Post-match, Billie Kay tries to give Carmella her resume. Carmella tells her to leave before finally taking the resume a little bit later. This is just, we haven't built up the women's deal, so let's just throw all the women into one segment because they're just interchangeable and it's utter trash. So Sami Zayn greets Logan Paul, which I guess he's some sort of YouTube celebrity star type person. I know the name because there are YouTubers I watched that reference him, but I've never watched his stuff. I don't care to. He's not in my demo, and I don't understand trying to cross over YouTube's supposed stars with an audience when you could just, I don't know, give money to charity, or you could have kept people on staff and not fired them back in April or May whenever they let people go for the pandemic, or you could give bonuses to your office staff. This celebrity throwaway crossover isn't what they think it is, and actually it's insulting. So anyway, they pipe in crowd noise for Paul's arrival. Zayn introduces him and then dances around to Paul's music. Zayn's happy that he's interested in the documentary, and Paul thanks Zayn for having him and notes that he's excited to see evidence. Zayn invites Paul to be a guest at WrestleMania. Paul agrees. Zayn shows the trailer. Trailer is supposedly hilarious. Rated T for Truth. Zayn. Uh, it, I People like this. I didn't. While I'm not the world's biggest Sami Zayn fan, I think his work in NXT 2014 ish, 13, 14, 15, whenever, years and years ago, was really good. He's been wasted on the main roster. Big surprise. Anyway, Zayn asks Paul his thoughts, and Paul said he liked the trailer but spoke with Kevin Owens earlier. Owens tells him that he knows Zayn for years and that he's a conspiracy theorist. Paul notes Owens thinks Zayn is delusional. Zayn doesn't care about Owens, wants to know Paul's thoughts, and basically says that he's put a lot of time and effort into the trailer, and that's my phone, so I shall grab it and return. So basically, in the simplest of forms, Zayn is putting over Paul. Zayn, asked him to not believe he's so delusional. He doesn't care about Owens. Owens jumps Zayn from behind, gives him a stunner, which I hate Kevin Owens with the stunner because it reminds us of times when people were really over like Steve Austin. Owens puts his hands on Paul and then walks by him. And then Edge approaches Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville. Edge promised to be at ringside for the Bryan Uso street fight. He's joining commentary with Cole and Graves. Bianca Belair defeats Carmella. Short match, basically meant to get people ready to see Carmella do, Belair do meaningful things. That was the whole point. They recapped the slap of Sasha Banks a while back. Kayla Braxton interviews Belair before the match. She asked if she's worried about splitting her time between tonight's match and Banks. And she basically says that the real Banks would appear. And after she slapped her in the face, Belair makes fun of Carmella and blamed her for them having to deal with Reginald. Carmella jumps Banks and enters the ring before the bell. Carmella beats Belair around, and we go to the break. The match starts during the commercial, which is just stupid. Carmella is in control and catches Belair with a Rana. Carmella beats her up for a few minutes. Belair fights back and nails Carmella with shoulder block. Belair hits dropkick and takeover. Belair attempts a handspring splash. Carmella is rolled out of the way. She follows up with a super kick and a near fall. Carmella yells at Belair, but Belair fires up. Hits the kiss of death for the win. Banks attempts to jump Belair, doesn't work out. They recap Corbin attacking McIntyre on Raw, which is another waste of space. Corbin discusses attacking McIntyre. He promised to defeat him on Raw on Monday, which is not a thing that's going to make people tune in. And then he's going to challenge Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania because that would really lead to Peacock buys. Well, at $250, maybe there's people that would pay less than a cup of coffee to see Bobby Lashley and Baron Corbin. Anyway, street fight, Daniel Bryan, Jey Uso. But before that, Apollo Crews speaks about a match with Big E at WrestleMania 37. He challenges him to a Nigerian drum fight, which is some sort of street fight. He promises to defeat him for the Intercontinental title. Then we go to another street fight because we have to have at least one of those a week these days. Bryan and Uso had a okay street fight. They tried to tell a really good story, as would be expected with Daniel Bryan in there. That being said, Uso's push as a main star is kind of getting stale because it's gone on too long and hasn't really gone anywhere. Edge joins Michael on commentary, along with Corey Graves. Bryan starts brawling with Uso right away. They fight around the ring. Uso throws Bryan into the barricade. Uso gets in on Edge. Edge tells him to focus on Bryan. Uso grabs a chair, tries to bring it into the ring. Bryan cuts him off, hits a sliding drop kick. Bryan attempts a suicide dive. Uso hits him with a chair. Uso puts Bryan's leg in the chair and attempts a splash. Off the top, Bryan moves out of the way and destroys Uso with a series of chair shots. Roman Reigns comes out, makes his way to the stage. Heyman's wheeling out a chair behind him. Bryan is in control when we come back from the break. Uso gets nailed with a bunch of kicks. Bryan attempts a running drop kick. Uso caught him with a super kick. Uso placed the chair in the corner and throws Bryan into it. Uso brings a chain and hits Bryan in the face with it, and then he hits a splash off the top for a near fall. Uso becomes angry with this, drags Bryan to the floor, slams him on the floor, slams his head into the steps, and Uso attempts a suplex off the steps. Bryan reverses the suplex. Bryan grabs a chair and takes every bit of frustration he's ever had out on Uso. Bryan hits a missile drop kick, follows up with yes kicks. Bryan grabs the chain, wraps it around his arm. Bryan then hits Uso with a series of elbows with the chair and applies the yes lock for the win. Bryan jumps out of the ring and hits Edge with a running knee. He then slams Edge's head into the ring post a bunch of times. Bryan and Reigns had a stare down. Bryan walks up the ramp. Reigns throws the chair at Bryan, but he moves out of the way. Bryan hits a running knee on Reigns, applies the yes lock. Referees come out. Bryan jumps back in the ring, and they do yes chants to end SmackDown. This would be good if it was 2014, 15, or 16. This is not so good in 2021. It's too late. Yes, you can get the 1 million people who still watch your program, maybe 1.5 million on a good day, to buy this pablum. But you're not going to make new fans this way. And for most people, it's going to be like, finally. And then after Mania, you just kill it off. So anyway, that's that. We'll be back with the beginning of the Saturday night review series in a little bit. And we've got over 1,100 audios, almost 1,200 now on this channel. If you're looking for life, business, relationship coaching, please reach out to my main channel, Golden Opportunities Coaching. Over 500 coaching topics over there. So certainly would love to be of service to you. In any event, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Till next time, everybody.